And again, I say this all the time, and this isn't me trying to get the sympathy vote early on from people, but this is the most improbable thing I ever seen myself doing, is actually speaking in front of people. But the reason you do it is obviously, I just can't thank God enough for what he's done in my life, but is if you encourage somebody, then you have to do it, or if you can plant a stone, or I remember a fellow wording at one time, if you can put a wee stone in somebody's shoe, or if somebody can even say that my brother used to be like that, or my sister or something, well, then that helps too, because there's a way out. Again, I would just also say a big thanks to anybody who's here tonight, and it's not your normal Sunday night place to come. Well done for coming, because that helps, because it's not easy just coming into the churches. I never went near them, and I'll sort of start from the start. How did I get here? I'm from Ballybean. I'm sure most of you know it over in the beautiful East, God's country, as I would call it, but I'm sure maybe get an argument with that. I was the youngest of two sisters. The youngest, there was three, and I was the youngest. Sorry, I know I've changed. Well, I had two sisters. Always wanted a brother. Always wanted a brother. For the obvious reason, any time I was in fights with my mates, said always a big brother come round, and that was it. And I had two big sisters. And as far as church, when it came in, and I say this because I'm looking around, there's a few sort of younger folk, but there's loads of people sort of in around my age. But I was one of the fellas, all I got for Christmas was a pair of football boots and a ball, and sometimes a blue top, white shorts and red socks. And that was your Rangers kit, your Linfield kit. Linfield too. Sometimes you'd wear white socks, you mean, in the chat. It wasn't like kids are nowadays where everything's coming at them. When I used to get a pair of football boots, I wore them to bed. It probably sounds a bit daft, but it did. And I was just football daft, but I was fired out to Sunday school. It's sort of the thing I always say, I'm sure in my testimony. 2:30, anybody remember the big match used to come on? Because there's no 5 matches on a Sunday. That was your football. And my dad used to fire me out to Sunday school, and I hated it. And done my best to get through out again, which was probably even worse because I hadn't one of them dads who sort of says, that's all right, go and sit and watch a match. I was a crack in the head and up the stairs. But I just sort of messed about in the churches and sort of was a type of kid, and hopefully if I can remember, I can get back to this, because when I say this, I'm not slating the churches in Ballybean, but I can remember a time when I was about 9 or 10, and I got picked to play for Belfast Cubs. And again, it's my role in football now. You see, some wee kid comes to a match, his aunt, his granny, his granda, his mum, his dad, everybody comes to watch him. And then there's only me. And I walked from Ballybean down to the Civil Service Club where they were playing at Stormont, which is where we have our Liverpool Development Centre at the minute. And I played, we beat Belfast Cubs 2-0, and our Sunday school was having the bus run. And I sprinted up again with my medal. And it was only 2 miles, but when you're only 9 or 10, it seems ages. And where I lived, the church was on the hill, and you could see the 2 buses, and my mum gave me my wee lunch and away you went, and a bottle of juice. And I run up, my mates and all were all on the bus. Sisters were on the bus, and they said to me, "You're not going," because of the way you behaved. I think it was a pantomime on that previous week, and I was acting a nut. But the bus drove off, and my sisters were devastated. My mates were laughing, they were waving at me. And I remember sitting in that wee wall outside it, and I thought to myself, do you know what, I hate Christians. I actually hate them. So, and then they're good people, and these are people now who I've went on, there's some of them are 70s really, some of them are passed on into heaven. And the last 20 years I've had good friendships with them, and we have laughed and joked about all this. But I hated it. So I was just getting in, went to school, and we had quite a good school football team, as most sort of people think they have. We won all the cups and different things, and the only deterrent teachers had with me, I was captain of the school teams, was you're not playing. And I was in daily report and different things, and once I said you're not playing, I used to think to myself, you know what, I'm going to have to catch myself on here. And then something sort of happened when I was about 14. I came in one night, and my dad, who was an ex-Navy, my dad was a bigger man than me, and I came in one night, him and my mum were sitting. He was a good man, like he wasn't just a heavy drinker, always drinking. And sometimes I'd have went to put 5p in the gas meter, and you seen all the drinks. And I didn't know what it was and stuff. And, well, when I was younger, I did. When I was older, I knew what it was. But I came in this night, and he says to me, I became a Christian. And my mum's became a Christian. I thought, I don't believe this. I don't want to become Christians. And the only effect that had on me in that time was all of a sudden my dad used to say, right, let's check your homework and all. He never done that before. And he used to say to me, we're getting you a new blazer. And in other words, he's paying a wee bit more sort of attention. And I just hated everything about it. And say the good thing, but it's probably not a good thing. It's not a good thing now, but there's no way I ever went to church with him. Everyone, and I've sort of seen that he's dead and all, and the times we had, you hate it. But when he got baptized one night and he asked me to come, I says, there's not a chance. And I say that to anybody who's maybe asked somebody to come tonight and haven't came. Don't be hard on them. Just keep asking them. But I can remember my dad sort of always saying to me, and sort of slightly later years, the thing he always said to me used to burn a hole in my heart was, son, I don't want to go to heaven without you. That was the only thing actually ever sort of spoke to me, because, as I say, I've been knocked out 3 times in my life. My dad was 2 of them. So, and obviously I deserved it. But see, growing up in Ballybeen, it was just all football and messing about. And when I was thinking about what to say here this evening, I thought to myself, I'll tell a few poignant stories, hopefully near the end. I'll tell a couple of embarrassing stories. And here's one of my embarrassing stories. When I was I must have been 13 or 14. And at that stage, my sisters were working at the time. They'd give me a couple of pounds for pocket money. My dad would give me a pound or two. And we used to buy, a carry-out. But I can remember it was coming after Christmas. And I played football. And there was a wee activity hall they built. And Ballybeen had 3 big sets of high-rise flats. You called it Ballybeen Square. And that was more or less where I lived. But I was playing football with these men this night. I used to go and stand at the door and put my face at the window. And more often than not, they used to let me come in and play. But this night in particular, the plan was I was going to play my football 7 to 8 and then meet my mates at the far end of the flats. They had my couple of pounds. They were getting a cider and a couple of tins of beer. And the big thing that night was there was a couple of girls coming up, 3 or 4 girls or whatever, from down Newton Ards Road, which was like unheard of. But it had been up a couple of weeks. And then there was obviously 3 or 4 wee girls, or 5 or 6 from Ballybeen. And everybody was coming up. And as soon as I was finished my football, carry out, and then we'll see what was what. So I finished and I come out. And it was just after Christmas. I just got a nice new lovely jumper. And I remember it as well. And this might sound stupid, sort of people that did, but I used to never cut my hair. It was about 13 or 14 or 15 or so, I don't know. But I remember this night standing in the changing room, the wee thing, giving myself a side shave. And I came out of the community centre and I was walking through in the first set of flats, and I could see my mates at the far side of the community centre. But in between the flats, they just planted these trees, and there was wee chairs, and all the girls that come up from the Newton Ards Road were sitting at one side, and the other girls from the estate, they were sitting at that side. And I come walking through my bag. I'm sure you all remember the film Grease. I come walking through like John Travolta, and see the trees. See the trees they planted. There was wee tiny trees. They put the things around them to stop the trees getting wrecked. And I come marching through, and just at that, one of the things that broke, and it grabbed my jumper. So I went walking, and then the next thing, boing, it pulled me right back. And the whole place went into uproar, and they all come running across. And then I couldn't get myself off. And the worst thing was, my mates came down from the far end, and then about 50 people just stood laughing at me. And people say to me, anyone they started drinking. So that was a wee embarrassing story, but that was life in general. And then at sort of 15 or 16, I was assigned for Carrick Rangers, and was in a few Northern Ireland squad, youth teams and different things. And probably the most famous player in that squad would have been the current manager, Michael O'Neill. He was in the round, a good player that he was. And then I was sort of in the round the Carrick first team, 15, 16. And then I'd done a thing I sort of was told not to do. I signed for Linfield. And because people were saying to me, you're up to Blues and you play for Swifts and that'll be it, but at least for Carrick you're in the first team. But to cut a long story short, Friday nights then just became me sitting in Ballybeen Square, getting up in the morning, playing. And Linfield Swifts was always named as, for people sort of my generation older would remember, it was always an 11 o'clock kickoff. So I'd have played in the morning for the Swifts and then played for Dundalk in the afternoon as a ringer. And I thought nothing of it, just played away and life was good. And used to get the Ulster, see if I got a wee mention, because used to give you the wee read up one thing and another. And life just trundled on. And I left school at 15 and started in a working man's club. I left school on the Friday and started there on the Saturday. On the Monday, it was May Day. And I was an apprentice barman and learned how to serve and then learned how to drink and then learned how to steal. And then spent most of my adult life working in clubs and pubs And I don't want to go with 25 half an hour boneyard here because you do without realising. Sorry, Jack. But that was life. And then when I hit, and sometimes in life God has a plan for you, and you have two roads, and you can take one, or you can take the other. And sometimes things just happen to you, and God just makes things happen. And I believe this, because on my day when I was about 18 then, and I was lying this day, absolutely racked with the flu and the cold. But I had to start working early the next morning. I remember my dad coming up saying to me, "Don't be getting." It was a Monday night, and my mates clinking at the gate with a carry. The bar we used to about up in Ballybean was called the Quarry Inn. And I went that night, and the best thing ever happened to me, I met my wife. And again, the way things happen, I'd never seen her in my life. She said she'd been going to her for years. I run about her for years. We never seen each other until that night. And she was on the phone, and I tapped her on the shoulder and said I would give her a lift home. And she said, "My mate's with me." And I said, "Sure, I'll give it to you as a lift home." And we went in the car park, and I said, "No car." But I got a wee kiss, and I got her phone number. And that was the sort of, probably the first good wee part of my marriage, because then in my 20s, my oldest son, who's sitting here now, he's 30, it makes me feel old. And my youngest son here, he's here too. And my middle son, he's just left for, by the way, today to go to Burkina Faso for a week's mission. So really proud of the three, and I have a daughter too. But I was asked to do a wee biopic for our church magazine there last week. And me being me, I said to my wife, "Write something." And she said, you're allowed 100 words. And she wouldn't do it. She says, "I'm not doing it, you have to do it." So I sat and worked and read 100 words. And one of the things I read on it was, I described my 20s as the wilderness years, because I'm just ashamed of all the stuff I got involved in. And I stand here and probably tell you stories and different things, but the three main things that should have happened to me was I should have been dead. I should have been in Purtisburn mental hospital, or I should have been in one of the jails. And that's just a fact, because I went out on a Tuesday night and didn't come home the following Tuesday. And allegedly been into work. And then some of the clubs and pubs I was working in, I was in charge of them, so all I had to do was go and count the money, basically drink, and just bring people with me to drink. And on the outside looking at it, probably would have looked, he's doing rightly. But again, the football had fell to the wayside. Stopped playing football. And my mate who I lived next door with, there's 9 Field supporters in here, big Cliff Ferguson. He lived next door to us. He was the same age as I. Played with him all my day, and he went on to, and I became sort of just near enough pretending it was him, going to the matches the odd time with him, and just delighted that he was doing well, because he's a great lad. But the football was slipping by the wayside, or it went. And I just became this actor. I had near enough 2 lives. I went to some of the bars in Donald and told people I was taking the kids to the ice bowl and stuff. And that was just lies. I probably hadn't been home for 4 or 5 days. And then went to the other places and got involved in all the stupid stuff that people get involved in. And then my health started to deteriorate probably, and ended hospitalised a few times. And I couldn't see any different. I was just plodding on, acting idiot. And sometimes, for a while there, I was doing a door at different places. And the best way to describe that was, see, if I wasn't standing drunk, full drunk, I was standing shaking and terrified. But nobody would have knew except for me. And I was just getting on with this life. And somewhere in the back of my mind, just ashamed of myself. Just ashamed of what I'd become, and hated. And again, just to drop the wee church bit in. On occasion, I went to the church I was married in, my wife, St. Finian's. And I'm not trying to be funny, but it was like the longest hour of my life. It did. I used to put my hand over my watch and say, if there is a God, say 10 to 12, because I couldn't stick it. And there was maybe one day in particular, I was sitting with my head all like a pasty supper, and couldn't wait to get out again. And that was it. And then I went up to my mum and dad's, and my dad was saying, "Don't want to go to heaven without you." And I actually got to this stage where I thought to myself, see if my wife could find some nice fella to look after her. My daughter wasn't born at that stage, just my 2 oldest sons. She'd be far better off, because I came in one day, and it was actually a Monday. I'd been out from goodness knows when. And I took that much a night. Now, that was my secret to sleep, because see, when you've been drinking 4, 5, 6 days, you can't sleep. When you haven't closed your eyes, you can't sleep, and then when you do sleep, you see things. And we lived in the Castle Road at the time, and we had a wee cubby hole. And I climbed inside the cubby hole, put a woolly hat over my head, and took a load of night nurse, and thought to myself, so that's what you do. And I can remember my wife coming in with the kids, and the kids were, no, it was kids were only wee things. She says, "Where's Daddy?" He said, "He's not home from work yet." Daddy's in the cubby hole with a hat on his head. It's insanity. You know, you're just insane. But that's just the way it was. And once you got a couple of days right again, then you disappeared, and you went about your business. And a real sort of like probably a wee bit of a stupid story again was, I'm a big anybody knows me, I'm a big Van Morrison, a big Bruce Springsteen fan. And I'd love to see Bruce Springsteen before one or two of his goes. But it must have been 1994, 93 or something. And it's like something out of one of them sitcoms. I called the Sandy Road about 3 days earlier to pick up a birthday cake. And then done what I'd done. And then the cake was in the club. And then I thought to myself, I'll have to head home here. And I was standing with the Northern Bank. You know, the Northern Bank that got robbed, the big one there in the city hall. And I was standing with a 4-day-old birthday cake, or 3-day-old birthday cake. And Bruce Springsteen came walking past. Serious? And he had a couple with him. And I was standing, here's me, I'm actually going, I'd be better just jumping out and seeing if a bus could hit me. But it actually was him, and I stood at him, and he had these winkle picker shoes on, the big long coat, and like a bootleg tie, they call it. And you could hear his voice as plain as anything, and they did a big camera, and they were taking photos of him standing beside the City Hall. He was actually playing the King's Hall that night. There was an acoustic tour called The Ghost of Tom Joad. That's the trick. I've listened to it loads of times. And I was standing thinking, like, it'd be great to be Bruce Springsteen, wouldn't it? I wonder, does he know I'm standing here? I'm getting home here to get the rounds of the kitchen, and, you know. And I remember a fella saying to me one time, again, a wee incidental thing, one night was in some old club or pub, and was in the toilets, and I was standing fast. Have you not been home yet? And I says, no. He says, Zach, you may get home now. He says, you may get a box of chocolates and a bunch of flowers. I said, about 30 grand wouldn't he save me here if I was to go. But my wife had the patience of an absolute saint. And my daughter was born, and I never changed a thing, and I just was doing what I was doing. And I come in, I actually get through at all the clubs and pubs, because if you think you're smart, you're not. People catch up on you. And I was through to here, through to there, through to everywhere. And then my wife again got me a job where I'm in the minute of council. A friend of hers out of the church, St. Finian's, running a recruitment agency. And she says, you're getting a job? I said, oh, no. So, but I went and done it. And I actually stuck at it for a few months. It wasn't too bad, but a bit boring compared to all the bar stuff. So my drinking then just became more or less weekends, into Tuesday, Wednesdays, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesdays, knocking into the work and stuff. But I'd come home this Wednesday, and my wife was sitting in the living room. And she had loads of opportunities beforehand to fire me out and leave me. But I come in this day and she says, I want to speak to you. And she sat me down and says that I was in a meeting today called Al-Anon. It's for relatives of alcoholics. And again, you'll probably laugh. I said to her, well, I don't think your brother's that bad, Larry. Like, you have to go to meetings and stuff. I was being serious. Because, you know, she says, it's not for Larry, it's for you. And she actually gave me, like, there was loads of times I'd done, a million times worse. But this time, and it just shows you, don't come back in the 20 odd years ago, we'd just got a catalog delivery of a wee cordless phone, which seems nothing now, but at the time I remember sitting thinking, there's no wires and all, is that it? And she said, well, you have to ring that number. And I said, she said, I'm telling you now, ring the number. And so I went upstairs, and again, insanity, but I was actually sober doing this. I went upstairs, put a quilt over my head, and rang the number, and this fella answered the phone from AA, and he says, I'll come out and speak to you. I says, I did, no, I told him my address now. And he says, not a chance I'll be in there, I'm not sitting in here fat. And my wife was outside the door or whatever, and she says, you're seeing him. And the fella came out the following night and says to me, do you fancy coming to an AA meeting? And I thought, I said yes, but I'm not going. But I'll say yes, just to say yes. And it was on the Saturday, that was the Saturday night in Tampmore Avenue. And the whole day went on, and I thought to myself, I'll have a wee look at this meeting just to see. And my thoughts at the time was, I'll go for 3, see if I can stay 3-4 weeks off a drink. Got up a few quid, feel brilliant, Bob's your uncle again. So I stood outside Tapmore Avenue. I'll never forget it. It was in around early May. Things seemed to happen to me in around May Day and stuff. And I had a big collar. The sun was splitting the trees. And I had a collar up to here. And I was walking up and down Tapmore Avenue. And I knew the meeting was just about to start. And I says, I'll go in. I'm not getting in. I'll go in. And I ended up opening the door. And the first thing I seen was this big, like a big blackboard, big old-fashioned thing that you'd have seen in school. And it was the 12 steps. And the first thing I seen was step 3. Turn your life over to God or a power greater than yourself. And I thought to myself, oh, no, this is a religious meeting. And then the people got me in, gave me a cup of tea, sat and spoke. And again, the best thing about it was actually a good laugh. You know, people were sharing. It was actually funny. And I thought, what, I'm going to sort of maybe come here next Saturday night again. And I was going out the door and a fella says to me, listen, it's good to see you. Do 90 meetings in 90 days and you have a chance. And I says, mate, you'll never see me again. And I come back the next night, and the next night, and the next night. And the truth be told, I easily probably would have done 90 meetings in 90 days, but leading up to it, there was a couple of wobbly moments where I thought to myself, no, that's 4 or 5 weeks. I'm not going down to that dopey meeting. And I remember one night going in, and the best way to describe this wee lady was that programme, over the Crescent Circles, Hyacinth, with a flowery dress. And I come in the Saturday night, and this wee woman's at the top here, so that's it, finished. Well, sure, I've got 5 or 6 weeks out of it, so at least, it's better than nothing. And that lady shared that night, and I've never spoke to her, and she'll never know me, but the stuff she said just about drinking, about life, about even hand her life over to God, I thought to myself, do you know what? I might try this. I might give this out, stopping drinking a bit of a go. So I did, and I got back playing football. And in between times, I turned into Forrest Gump. Because I just used to get up on Saturday mornings, just run. And just run and run and run, come back and had a shower, and then took the kids to the ice pool, and then done things that sort of normal people would have done. And I can remember again, a wee incidental thing that never really spoke to me at the time, but sort of speaks to me now, even sort of 20 years later. So I was sitting one day, Saturday morning, just finished my run, and I had a big giant bowl of cornflakes, and I was whacking them into me. And I said to my wife, I said, tell you what, I never knew cornflakes were as nice. And I emptied the box back in, and I looked back, I turned around, she was sitting crying her eyes out. She says, I love it when you're normal. And she was sitting crying. And at the time, I thought, why is she even getting on like that? And in between times again, I thought to myself, well, my old phone will be red hot, because I knew it was FA Cups and all coming in the round at the time, and there was this and there was that. And I thought, well, everybody will need me at their parties, and they'll need me they'll need me. If nobody came near me, nobody wanted, because the wives didn't want me to go because she took our husbands, and the husband didn't want me to go because I just went mad at times. But I was enjoying things and just enjoying being sober. On my 29th birthday, my sister, my oldest sister, because my 2 sisters were Christians, and she said to me, will you do me a favour for your birthday? And I says, aye. So she says, will you come to church with me? And I thought, no. But I said yes, knowing I'll go for a run Sunday morning. So when she sees I'm not there, she'll go herself. And I went for my run and come back. And God love her car was still sitting in the car park. And she says, I'm waiting on you. Get a shower, you're coming. And I went over to Whitewell with her over on the shore road. Again, the first thing I noticed right away was younger people, big crowd, everybody seemed happy. You know, and I remember the pastor making an appeal, and I knew what an appeal was because I'd been in around enough wee church meetings when I was a kid. And I actually put my hands under my legs like that. And I seen people putting their hands up. He says, ready to see your hand here? Man, my hand might pop up here. But it never felt. So I come home, I said it was my birthday, and a couple of things sort of happened, the way God can make a way for you. And one of them was, I said I would go back that night. I said I'll take my wife back. And once I got the smelling salts out and got her off the floor, she couldn't believe it. And I said, I will go back to this church because it's not really like a church. For my birthday present, my sister bought me a Bible and a book and a wee thing, a wee tweezer, promises things you pull out. And I remember she gave me it and thought to myself, where's my new jumper or whatever? Is that it? But the title of the book was, it was an evangelist called George Bates, and I can't remember too much about the book, although I read it, but the title of the book was called This Is For Real. And I remember thinking, it's speaking to me a wee bit. So I went back to Whitewell that night, went in the door, didn't know what I was doing, sort of think myself, and was showing the wife, look at all the choir, look at all these. This isn't like your old church where they're all marching up and down, up. And I love going to symphonies, by the way, in between times, in the last days, because I know a wee bit about it and I enjoy the richness and the fabric and all of it. But the first song I sung on it was Amazing Grace. And I had the hymn book. It was before all the words in the thing. And all of a sudden, I just started crying my eyes out. And I'll never forget the noise. I always do this because to try and remember what to say. But it's like that there. The tears are running down my face onto the thing. And I remember sort of really at that time thinking to myself, you know, see if there is a God, can you help me? Can I, you know, and I understand. And people sort of think sometimes you become a Christian, all the stuff you've done, you've regretted, it's all brushed onto the carpet, and that's it. It's not brushed onto the carpet. I hated myself. I was disgusted with myself and abject, just feeling bad and low. And I thought to myself in that time, if there's a God, can you help me? And a peace came into my life that night, has never left. And a joy and a purpose. Thank you. And I knew right away something had changed. I just knew. And I got the wee Bible out that night. And the other thing about White Wolf, when I came in, there was a big banner. First thing, Jesus Christ, the same yesterday, today, and forever. Hebrews 13:8. And before that morning, I seen the 13:8. Well, that's an old bookie's price, isn't it? 13:8. And I thought to myself, I'm going to hit a 13:8 when I hit the next end of bookies. But there was no more 13:8s for me. And I done a thing you shouldn't do. Well, you probably should, you shouldn't. But people, been Christians a long time, say you shouldn't. I got the Bible and says, Lord, please, I don't want to do this. Will you help me? And I opened the Bible, and the first verse I turned to was Jeremiah 29:11. Now, I didn't know it was one of the, because you hear it now, like I've heard that over and over. I'm not trying to belittle Jeremiah 29:11, but I know it's an old standard and a favourite of people, but the verse is, for I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to give you a hope and a future. And that was the first time in my life I ever felt as if I had a hope. And not like a hope Liverpool can sort of start scoring goals and win the league. I'm not talking about that type of hope. An absolute hope backed up by God's word. And the two verses I got that night, the next one was, I heard it here last month, that young gentleman was talking about John 10:10, and the end of the verse, I have come that you may have life and have it in all its fullness. And I thought to myself, you know what, I want that. And I want to do this. And I came into work the next day, and I'll fast forward because I've only about 10 or 15 left, haven't I? Here. And I went to work the next day, and the boys were, never forget it, a fella came walking past me, we were standing, he said, well, still off a drink. I says, I became a Christian last night. He says, what? I said, became a Christian last night. Next thing, called the once down the yard. I'll never forget the way he done it. Here he was. Oh, Christian. And next, a few come down. And I says, I became a Christian last night. And one of them says to me, you'll not keep it a fortnight. I says, thanks for encouraging words. And another mate of mine says, don't be starting that nonsense in here. Well, he didn't say nonsense. He says, don't be starting that such and such in here. See, in the last 20 years, see them two fellas. One of them's dead, became a Christian. And one of them, his wife has died and different things happened to him. And I'm the first phone call he makes. And I'm glad I'm the first phone call he makes. And I just went on with my life, in my job, and happy with my faith, going to my church and seeing them. See, honestly, I went to the prayer meeting, the Bible studies, this. See if they had let me into the women's meeting, I'd have went in. I couldn't, I just loved it. I just loved it. And then we lived in the Cashew at the time, and we bought a wee house back in Ballybean. And my oldest son then started playing football. He was about 9 or 10. And he had came to me then, because I just used to let him go. And he come up one Saturday morning and says, you always said if we're short of lifts, can you give us a lift? So the next thing I had a few kids and we're driving over to the match, and it was my team going, and a couple of mates of mine were taking the team. And then a few weeks after that, somebody was away at this and somebody was away at that, and they asked me, would you take a team? And then before you know it, I was in with the team and taking the team and running up and down like an idiot and just loving it. Absolutely loving it. and sort of took to the coaching and took to being around the young players and the young kids and just enjoyed it. And then, because 26th of February there, a couple of days ago, would have been 15 years I've been employed by Liverpool Football Club. And for 7 years I was a chief scout in Ireland, in Northern Ireland, and then for 15 years I've been a chief scout North and South. Which, by the way, it's an absolute pleasure. It's like a dream come true. I've done it for 15 years. Probably not be doing it for another 15, but there's a lot of hard work in it. And there's a lot of telling people stuff that don't like to hear, which is the hard bit. But I'll tell you how I got the job, and then two more wee stories, and I'll be off in 5 to 8. That's all right, Bernard, is it? So I was in around the peace process, and a guy, I'm sure you've maybe heard of, called Andy Terry, grabbed me one day and said, would you like to take your kids across to play a match in England? And I thought, aye, certainly. And he says, because see this oil peace money, he says, they're fair money at it. All you have to do is take your team from Dundalk, go to the Tim Parry Peace Centre in Warrington. That was a wee kid, 2 wee kids were blew up 20 odd years ago. His dad had started up Peace Centre. Go there, get a few photos took. And then one of the games was at Liverpool Academy. So we beat the Dundalk team 9-0 on the Friday. I always like to throw this in because I'm a football person. And then beat the other team 5-0, Liverpool team 5-0 on the Saturday. And I built up a bit of a friendship with the ones at Liverpool. And a few years, and we're coming over the Milk Cups, and they were ringing me about this and that. And they said, would you like to do a bit of scouting for us? And I said no, because I was working with a fella who I sort of knew through football and didn't really think I could sort of work with him, and didn't really want to do it. And then they asked me a second time, and I ended up with saying, yes, I'll do it, as long as I'm doing it on my own. Because that's what we're like in this football game. We all think we're experts. So much then, that was my life. I was coaching the team, and then I was scouting for Liverpool, and things like, how does that happen? There's another verse in the Bible that says, in Joel, it says, I'll replace the years of the locusts have eaten. And these verses are true, and there's another one, Psalm 103, about your youth being renewed like the eagles. And it's true. And my sort of time at Liverpool, I've been to Istanbul, I've been to Greece, I've been to FA Cup finals and all the stuff, been to all the matches, and I never once take it for granted. And we've had loads of kids signed, and ones there, and we've had development centres and north and south, kids there at the minute. My boy going in tomorrow for a week, so I'll be in eggshells for a whole week, hoping he does well, because I really care about them and really, really want them to do well. And we've loads of kids not at Liverpool, but in other clubs in England, and it's just lovely playing a wee small part in what they do. And I'm just so blessed and thankful to be. Our development centre's on a Friday night. I don't coach it. I just sort of coordinate it, and my mates coach it in different ones. And I can honestly say this. See, I've never, even Friday night there standing in the rain, I've never not stood there, looked up and says, Lord, how does an idiot like me get here? Thank you so much. And I actually prayed that prayer, but again, it's one of my wee sort of, as I would call, testimony funny stories. It was the 2006 FA Cup final. And them cup finals are like, seriously, there was a few Liverpool supporters in here, they treat me like royalty. It's unbelievable. And it was like going to a wedding. You go down from Liverpool in the Queen Anne train with your name on the thing, and who was it? It was Xabi Alonso. A couple of players weren't playing, and they're all just sitting beside you. And we got off at Cardiff, and the crowds and all were there, and you can near enough hear people saying, who's he? You could. And I walked in, and honestly, I walked into that cup final because the Cardiff Hilton's right beside the Millennium Stadium. And I walked into that cup final. The police came and put like a big shield thing. Nobody could see through. And there was thousands of Liverpool supporters. And they made this shield. And there was Robbie Fowler, Lewis Garcia, all the players that weren't playing, and me. And we walked into the Millennium Stadium. And I thought to myself, like, this is just... So the match was brilliant. West Ham were actually, I don't know if any of these Liverpool supporters can remember, but West Ham were brilliant that day. They called it the Steven Gerrard final, but I thought West Ham were fantastic. And I looked around the Millennium Stadium at 94 minutes. Liverpool was getting beaten. I think it was 3-2. And the West Ham supporters were singing their song, I'm Forever Blowing Bubbles. And the whole place was looking brilliant, and the sky was blue. And I remember looking up the sky and thinking, like, Lord, how does an idiot like me get here? And just out of the corner of my eye, I seen, just a wee split second, Steam Gerrard had hit one from about 30 yards into the bottom corner, and the whole place erupted. So that night in the hotel, we're all having the party and the meal and all the rest. And somebody said to me, well, what about the goal? What about the equaliser? I said, never seen it. He said, where were you? I said, I was praying. I said, I just can't believe I'm here. And that's been the case all my time through it, because obviously I'm a football nut. And, you know, the wee thing at Boneyard and Cali and all done for me was brilliant. The wee face, and then telling you a wee bit about me coming in the night. It says Cliff talks about more than football and Liverpool. And I thought to myself, I don't know me. Because I could qualify at about, I don't know, many years ago, I was asked to do a pastoral training course. And again, I said to the minister, no problem, because I turned into like a wee one-man band at times. I remember saying, Lord, see if you give me a car, I'll never drive past anybody in a bus stop. And I remember saying to myself, Lord, see if anybody's in hospital, and I'm going up to see them. And honestly, see if you were in hospital in that church, you had me and a bottle of Robinson's barley water and a packet of Jolly Babies getting up to see you. And I was picking people up at the bus stop, and some of them were looking at me saying, who is he? And getting round putting their messages in the boot and all. But I was asked to do this pastoral training course. And I said yes, went down, didn't want to do it, got hooked up with this lady. Ex-missionary, and you do your role play 6 weeks. Hated it, come back, all my books, come back every week. Said my wife, not come back. Said, you have to go back, you're going back. And the last night, she had to summarise me and I had to summarise her. And I was going to tell her about, she's a lovely lady and she does this and she's been to Africa 100 times. She's missionary somewhere now. And she get up in front of people and says, well, the one thing that stands out about Cliff, here's me, here we go, this is picking people up the bus stop and taking them or going up to the hospital and all. Just says the one thing about Cliff, says no matter when anybody's talking about, he brings it round to football. I was actually being serious. So this is my absolute last thing. Of loads of things I could say, and I'm aware of where I am when I'm saying this. But again, the question I've been asked 1 trillion times: how'd you get that job at Liverpool? Usually it's like, how'd you get that job at Liverpool? And here's my answer. It was actually just after that 2006 FA Cup final, the Monday night afterwards, and I was sitting in the house. Sometimes I couldn't remember my name, but I can remember what I was doing. I was sitting dipping a bap in the soup, and my phone rang. I was a minister from a church we used to go to, and he said the speaker hasn't weighed in the night. There's a mission up in Glencairn, up in the Shankill. They've had a mission Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. And he said, and I can't get nobody to go up. Will you go up? And I said, well, seeing you've asked me so nice, sure, I'll have to go up. Well, it's my duty. And sort of give a bit of testimony. So I was only back in the FA Cup final. I thought to myself, well, she'll tell the kids about the football and stuff. And a couple of things happened that night. But one was, as I was going up to the door of St Andrew's Church, these two big lads, about 14 or 15, started punching head each other as I was getting in. And I had to split them up. And they really were cracking each other. And I was waiting for somebody to come and help me, thinking to myself, Lord, I thought I was delivered from this. So I went to speak, and one of the wee tricks, I couldn't do it now, in case anybody has a ball, but one of the wee tricks I used to do, I used to take my socks and shoes off, and because I was always playing football, I could keep a football up as long as I'm standing talking to you. Easy. And you could all go home and come back the next day, and I was just good at it. So the thing that I used to do was, they had a ball, and I said, right, I'll get the ball out, and I was keeping it up, and I said to the kids, anybody can keep it up for over 50, I'll give them £2. And none of them could do it. And there's lads in Liverpool shirts, and they were getting to 36. And then I was weighing them up. I said, see, Liverpool supporters, don't even want to look at this. If you can't get up for 50, throw your shirt in the bin, because, just weighing. And don't even want, Man United supporters, they couldn't get up for 40, but don't be worrying about it. But I grabbed the ball and it sort of threw at this, and it hit this wee fella, and he turned around. Liverpool had a wide away shirt at the time. I says, right, you're next. And as he turned around, I could see that the lad wasn't well. I says, I'm sorry, son, sorry. And we got talking. And that night led and then another invitation to one of these clubs up where said, would you come and speak to our kids? And the young lad was there again that night. And it transpired he had leukemia. Somebody was maybe know him, Nathan Peebles was his name. And it transpired he had leukemia. So I built up a friendship with his mum and his dad, and used to go up and see him sort of Monday and sometimes Saturday nights and different nights. And I actually brought by Cliff Ferguson up one night. He had scored a hat trick for the Blues against Coleraine, and he brought his match ball up, and signed and all, and just built up a lovely wee friendship with the family. And we knew he was sick, and we knew things weren't looking well for him. And then about sort of March time, around this time of year, and around March time, the lady Valerie Tom, maybe somebody know her, that was the minister up there, Vicar at Dibley, I called her, she's a lovely girl. And Valerie phoned me and said, "Do you know if Nathan's saved?" And I said, "Valerie, you're the minister, love." I knew where she was coming from, and I knew what she was trying to say. And I was sitting in the house for myself, and I said, "You know what, I'm going to see him." And so I think I phoned his mum and said, "Listen, we alright if I nipped in for 20 minutes, go up and see him?" I says, "Aye, certainly." And he was in bed at this time in the wee front room, and nurses were coming out and stuff. And I went in. He heard me coming. He knew I was coming. He's a great wee lad. And he was reading. He must have grabbed his Bible. And I come in. He says, "Big lad, I'm reading the Bible." I says, "Good." I said, "What are you reading?" But on the way up, I was absolutely feared of saying the wrong thing, or feared of being offensive, afraid of just maybe just being too much in this situation. And I remember praying, "Lord, just show me something. Let me say something that will help, that will maybe comfort people." And I said, "What are you reading?" And he showed me his Bible. And it was he was reading Luke 24, where Jesus is on the cross. And you all know the story where one of the thieves says to Jesus, "Well, if you're meant to be a son of God, any chance of you getting your army as angels down and doing something that's about where you are?" And the other thief says, "Well, listen, we've done nothing wrong. This man, look what we've done. This man's done nothing wrong." And he had watched the way Jesus had reacted to all the stuff, and he had watched. And we're reading the passage. And one of the thieves said to Jesus, "Teacher, remember me when you come into your kingdom?" And Jesus said to him, "Today you'll be with me in paradise." And I says, "Nathan, who do you want? What one are we?" I says, "Because I know what one I am." And he says, "I want to be him." And him and I prayed a prayer. And I can't remember what we prayed, but we prayed, and I opened the door, and there was about 10 people in the hall, Valerie being one of them. And I says, "Valerie, look at what we have here." It says, "Any man being Christ, he is a new creation." And he died I think it was 2 weeks after that, and his 16th birthday. And he got buried in Liverpool. We sent him over a Peter Crouch signed shirt. So if anybody asks me, "How'd you get the job at Liverpool?" That's why I got the job. Yeah. And the last thing just to leave is with, if anybody, some of the things I get asked, they don't really change. One of the privileges I've had in the last number of years is being involved in Alpha. And the questions don't change in Alpha. Different things change, but questions don't. And church questions and football questions don't particularly change either. But very quickly, two things that people ask me. One of them is there a God? Can he help me? And does he care? They're the top three answers. Like I describe it like family fortunes. Is there a God? Can he help me? And does he care? And the answer is simply yes, yes, yes. He does care, and he can't help you, and he's there for you. And just to very, very finish, because that's me, 33, 34, sorry. But the last thing just to leave us with, I was in the gym in Wyatt, and again, when you know you're coming to do something like this, you sort of think to yourself, well, what will I say different? Is there anything, Lord, I can't say? And I don't watch this program, but I was on the gym, and I had my earphones in and was doing my wee thing. It was that program, Tannable, it's on the afternoons. I don't know, was it a quiz show or something, Tannable? But I couldn't hear the words, but I could see the writing. And the writing was, you have one life, use it any way you want. I thought to myself, my God, I got it. Because I'm a bit technically lost, I texted out to myself and sent myself a text. But that's what I'd like to leave you with tonight. You have one life, and you can use it any way you want. And just as I'm definitely getting down after this, just to say a really, really big thank you for having me here tonight. It's lovely. I'll probably talk 9 o'clock, but thank you.